my I'm waiting on my technical person here to testing 1 2 3 testing 1 2 3. He's saying not hearing. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2.
Speak. Not even
Testing 1 2 3. Nothing. I'm not even hearing myself.
I hear any station either.
I hear any station. It's clearer. Yeah, you hear me? Are you hearing me? Testing 1 2 3. I hear any station loud and clear. Kevin, I hear the station loud and clear. But they're not hearing me. Maybe I should try to use this.
That's what happened.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Yeah, and you try to do this with her. See if you can get into it. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Okay, very good. Excellent. I'm fine. These technical things that I wish I could set this and leave it. When we get it right, set it and leave it. But that's the difficulty when you're doing something out of a studio. When you're not in a studio and you have to do it somewhere else, it's a roving studio. So have you been? Before I go before I go forward with my program, I want to remind you and all the listeners out there, my second song, which is called Chandi Jaisa, it's being launched today at 5 on the West Indian Chutney channel on YouTube. For those who want the version with the subtitles, they can go on there and listen to it and get the subtitles and understand exactly what the song is about. You there? Hello? Everything gone dead? Internet up. Internet is okay. But everything just gone dead. You hear it?
I'm not even hearing it here. I'm not even hearing the video itself.
And she wouldn't be able to use this microphone to hold and talk.
Because what's happened is that there become the main mic. So any other mic it won't pick up. But I'm not hearing the radio itself online.
He sent a message. You hear me? Or what if we use that mixer? I could take any microphone.
To take the one mic.
Only one mic?
Yeah.
Let me see.
this. Take out this. Speak into that one time if you're here.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
You hear now?
No. Remember, I not plug in anyway, so how would I hear?
No.
I had to be plugged in.
Time if you're here now.
Testing 1 2.
Loud and
That's
clear.
not
Go to
one,
this. Take this and talk into this.
Right.
Alright.
Okay, testing. You can plug in this mic for she to hold in Chiana on top. Unplug it there and plug in this one. If you have a quarter inch.
Recording in progress.
Testing 1 2. Are you hearing me?
Check 1 2.
Check. Are you hearing me?
Check 1 2. You hear me now?
I hear you.
You hear me on this?
Okay, and they hear me. They hear me in the radio station. They are getting a feedback.
Yeah. I'm actually hearing me in the studio.
You hearing us? Okay, Angel. You hear
Are
me,
you
Angel?
hearing me?
I can barely hear it. Okay.
I hear no good.
Okay, you hearing loud and clear? David, you hear me loud and clear? Excellent. Okay, good. My apologies again.
Are you hearing me loud and clear?
Put it closer there.
Are you hearing me loud and clear?
Okay, good. Once you're hearing the angel and you're hearing me, we're about to start the program. What did you say, David? Okay, good. Yes, I was as I was saying, for those who are interested in my as I was saying, for those who are interested in my second song, it will be launched at 5 o'clock on the West Indian Chutney channel on YouTube. So you'll get the version with the subtitles too. So for those of you who are interested in hearing that, that's where you go to get it. So okay. All right. I was asked to do a particular topic today, which is a very interesting topic, and it has to do with relationships and trust issue. And I think that's something that we should be talking about, because I know a lot of people they have issues with the type of relationship they have. But I'll start off generally by just talking about relationships that different types of relationships that a person may have. So if I'm hearing, yes, yeah, you hearing, right? Good. So, some persons just want a casual relationship, and that's all well and good. Now it depends on the amount of time and effort you put into a relationship and what you expect out of it. It depends on who you have in a relationship with. If it's someone who is free, single, and disengaged, and you're trying to build a relationship where you become the main person in that person's life, and the person will no longer be free, single, and disengaged. So that type of relationship, you put much more investments into something like that. You put much more effort into something like that, and you want that relationship to blossom. But one of the things that is the foundation of a relationship is trust. I've always learned that trust is the foundation of a relationship. You must trust that person. I'm not saying you have to trust the person explicitly, but one of the things that you have to do is have enough trust in the individual to know that he or she will do the right things at the right time. Now, sometimes we do mess up, sometimes we do make mistakes, sometimes we do find ourselves in a situation where it might be a compromising situation, but you may not put yourself in that. It just so happens that it come about. And you have to be able to deal with something like that. If the person gives you the information, if the person tells you that, so and so happened, and I was trying to get out of that situation, whatever it may be, and I'm not going to go into specifics about it, but you have to use your imagination and think about the things that are going to bother you as an individual, things that are going to make you uncomfortable, and how are you going to react to that. But one of the things that you have to also look at is your partner, how he or she placed in a situation like this would react to something happening. So the trust issue really comes about when persons are insecure. They're insecure in a relationship. They may tell themselves that, my partner may be maybe an extroverted person. The personality is as such that they are flirtatious. They like talking to other individuals and whatnot. But that does not mean to say that they're unfaithful to you or they're untrustworthy. It's just the personality of the individual. And sometimes the personality of the individuals get the person in trouble, especially with their behavior. So sometimes a person may ask the other person to curb their enthusiasm, to curb their behavior, to not do things that is going to cause questions in the relationship. And if that happens, well, you have to know how to deal with it. But if you're asking your partner to behave in a certain way, now one of the things I've found, and these I always interject all these little points. The now generation, persons who have born over the last, let's say, 25 years, their behavior is much different from the older persons who have had the years of experience and whatnot. And that's because of the way the world has turned out to be now. And a simple example, you may have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and while you are courting and whatnot, you'll pay attention to each other, but you'll find at the same time, because of the way the world is now on social media and all these things, persons may find themselves on their devices, where, well, everybody walks around with a cell phone. And even if you go out on a date, you'll see sometimes two persons on a date, but they're on their phone. I see that sometimes you go to a cricket match and you'll see people on their phone. They're not even looking at the game. When they hear excitement, they want to know what the hell went on. But that is because people's attention span has been diverted to this thing that is in their hands. Now, if you're accustomed to reaching your loved one while that person doesn't have a job or at home or is a student, you know the hours and time that person is available or not available, or you will know that you can reach that person at any time. But let's say the person gets a job. What happens? When you have a job, your attention is to your job and what you have to do, not the cell phone. Some business places don't allow you to have your cell phone with you. Some places allow you to have your cell phone as long as you're using your cell phone in a discreet way. You're not making it the center of your focus. You're not making it the main thing that you on your cell phone all the time. What I have from being an employer of individuals, I have seen my employees at times more dedicated to their phone than their job. And sometimes you have to question that. I've had persons, they're talking on their phone and they don't care who is around them. They have no courtesy. They're talking very loudly. And you can hear their business, not that anyone wants to hear their business, but they just don't care about anyone else. And their excuses, I have to speak to this one, I have to speak to that one. But when you grow up in an era where there's nothing that you have to do except die, and if you understand that, you'll understand that the phone is just an extension of a communication tool. It's not something that you have to be on all the time. Unless, of course, your job is utilizing a phone. Then that's something different. But your personal cell phone is not part and parcel of your job. So if your boyfriend or your girlfriend is accustomed to getting in touch with you at all times of the day, and you suddenly find yourself in an environment where you cannot have your cell phone because the boss or whoever it is or the policy of the company is that you have to put down your phone when you come to work. You can check it maybe ever so often, as long as you don't make a habit out of it, right? And I know a lot of young ladies who are single parent, they have the perfect excuse. Well, I have to be in contact with the babysitter all the time. But the point is, if you're working and something should happen, there's nothing you can do by a phone call. And if the person have the business number, they could call the business and tell the business, so-and-so child is in the hospital or something has happened. So those are feeble excuses that people make. And I can tell you it happens because as an employer, I have heard it all. Why it is so important for a person to have their cell phone. But I look at myself. I look at how many companies I run. I look at how many patients and clients I have out there who all have my cell phone number. I look at my family, who all have my cell phone number, but I don't need to walk around with my phone 24/7. So I want to know why. I think people use their cell phone to get a sense of importance, that I am important. You remember, I don't know if people remember the days of pager, a beeper on your waist. Beeper was supposed to be for professionals. Then suddenly all these girls and things will have a beeper on their waist because the sugar daddy will buy them a beeper. I want to get in touch with them, and all of them feel they're important. They feel they're a doctor or a lawyer or somebody you have to reach all the time. Now, it has become worse because you don't need a beeper, you don't need a camera. Someone was telling me that there's some place that they allow you to go, but you can't go with a camera. So I'm like, well, if you can't go with a camera, you can't go with your phone, because every cell phone now, a smartphone, is a camera. So the world has changed. But the point I'm making, and again, it's not a condemnation of anyone or anything. It's just that people need to put priorities where the priorities should lie. If you have a job, you have a responsibility towards your job. Not your boyfriend, not your girlfriend, not your home, your job. Because your job is what is going to give you a salary to take care of your personal needs, to take care of the things that you need to take care of. But you have to take care of your job. So if the rules and regulation of the company or the business that you're working at demands that you don't have your cell phone with you all the time, the person who is accustomed to getting in touch with you 24/7 before suddenly cannot get in touch with you 24/7. Now that could create some trust issues, because you're wondering why this person can't answer the phone. It's because it is the policy of the company. Nothing else. I'm working and I need to pay. Think about it this way. If you're working in a machine shop, operating dangerous machines like a cutter, a circle saw, you think you could be concentrating on your cell phone and have that circle saw running there? You lose a finger, you lose a hand. And people just don't think anymore. They think that if they're working, they should have access to all the things that they want to have access to if they're not working. That is madness. And the person who's on the outside wants to be in touch with you 24/7. But I'll tell you what brings about these problems. Sometimes you cause your own downfall. If you answer your phone every time your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or your wife call you, you're looking for trouble the day you don't answer your phone. Because he or she is going to blow up. How come I call you and I can't get through to you? What you was doing? So it does not mean to say every time. Sometimes you might see your partner calling you and you just don't answer because I'm working. And when you have the time, you call the person and say, I know you was calling, I saw a missed call from you, but I was working. And if you're working, you'll understand that I am doing a job. But if you give the person the bad habit of responding, did we cut off? You hear me or still? I'm getting a hell of a feedback from that. We connected to the internet, but I don't know, I think the Zoom connection gone.
Yeah, no, yeah, no,
Is the Zoom in? Not,
Could it be something with the weather,
yeah.
weather and radio
Yeah,
station?
yeah, cut off.
eh?
Yeah, cut off. He play music.
Yeah, because
But the internet now went on your side.
no, the internet going, the internet on.
Yeah, the internet dropped on my phone earlier.
No, but I was in the internet here.
Yeah, he said it's unstable.
Yeah, we have an unstable connection, and I think it has, because we just lost the Zoom. Are you hearing me now? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right. So if you give your partner the habit that becomes a bad habit of you always being available to that person, the day that you become unavailable, you are looking for problems. So do not cultivate that. Do not cultivate it that every time a person calls you, no matter who it is, that you will answer your phone all the time. Because when you cultivate that, the person is going to be expecting that no matter what, if I call you, you're going to answer the phone. I am a child of my parents. I'm a parent of my children. And there are many times I will see my parents calling me and I cannot answer my phone because I'm at work, and I will call them back afterwards. And I have elderly parents. Now, I know if it's an emergency, they have ways of letting me know it's an emergency. But it does not mean to say I will answer my phone every time you call. And they know that. It's the same thing with my children. My children will call. I have a son who lives away. And there are times I can answer the phone and there are times I cannot answer the phone. And he will understand that. But anytime I give them the bad habit, if I had given them the bad habit, that every single time they call, I answer the phone, then they're going to be dependent on that. That daddy will also always answer the phone, their son will always answer the phone. So that alone should tell you the habits that you cultivate can be detrimental to you. And a lot of times couples create that problems among themselves because they don't know. Let's say, for example, the person is working in an executive office and have to go into an important meeting. You think you can carry your cell phone into an important meeting? They'll tell you leave your phone outside. So if at that moment you call for the person because you happen to be in the area and you want to pop in and see the person, but you are in a meeting, you're not available for someone to come and see you. You're at your job. And persons must understand these things. Not because you are working in let's say, for example, in a store, mean that I could just pop in the store and see you. No, you are doing a job, you are doing your work. And if somebody pops, I remember long ago in the 70s and whatnot, we would have stores and whatnot, and we have people working for us. But it doesn't matter who come there. If you're working and you're selling and you're doing what you're supposed to do, they have to wait until you're finished. Because they have to understand that you're doing a job. It's the very same thing. The things that you cultivate could be something that enriches your life or causes strife and problems. And like I say, sometimes we cause our own problems by the things that we do. I remember having to speak to someone recently about walking down a stairs and being on the phone. You know how easy it is to slip on a stairs? Both hands are on the phone because you're typing or whatever, and no hands are available if you're falling to hold on to the railing. Because believe me, you're not going to let your phone fall. But you can injure yourself. So there are things that you do that you have to think about self-preservation first, about you first. And it's the very same thing in a relationship. How am I going to preserve myself, my dignity, and whoever I am, right? And not cause problems in my relationship. So I have to get my partner to understand that this is what I do. This is my role and function in my job. I am not allowed to do certain things. So do not expect that you're going to get in touch with me 24/7 while I'm at the work. After that, yes, fine. We will always talk. So these are the things that has caused problem. But the insecurity of the individual is the main issue when it comes to trust issue. If an individual have doubt about themselves and their relationship, that brings about doubt about the person. That makes them feel as though they're inadequate and that person could walk away or go with someone else very easily. And this is where the problem comes in. If you think like that, could you imagine in a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, you think that your girlfriend could go with someone or your boyfriend could go with someone like that, a snap of a finger? So when you get married, you feel you're going to chain down the person? Some persons feel that marriage is a lock and key, you know. How they call it, the ball and chain?
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Because if a person is flighty prior to marriage, after marriage, they're going to be the same way. They may curb that for a while. They may not behave that way for a while. But given the opportunity later on, it's already part and parcel of their behavior. It's a pattern they have developed. And again, I'm not chastising anyone. I'm just simply laying the facts out, and you have to see which model you fit into. Everybody fits into a model. Every single person fits into a model. So they have to know their characteristics, their behavior, the things that they would allow or not allow, and how they react to certain things. So if you are a suspicious person of your spouse, no matter what that person do, you are going to be suspicious. But your own insecurities might be a reflection of you, of the things that you may do. And that's another way that the opposite party can look at it. You know, sometimes a person will accuse you of something because they are the ones doing it. I'm not saying everyone are like that, you know. But sometimes a person's insecurities comes about because of the things that they may do to their own spouse or partner. And that's why the person is thinking, I will do these things, so I'm sure my boyfriend will do those things, or my girlfriend will do those things, or my husband will do those things, or my wife will do those things. But I'll tell you something. No matter what you do, and I've been preaching this for the last 30 years, if someone wants to be unfaithful, they will find a way to be unfaithful. Whether it be unfaithful for a short moment or a long period of time, they will find a way to be unfaithful. And we must understand that. So if you allow these things to fester, to be part and parcel of the things that you think about, all you are going to do is create stress on yourself. And that stress is not going to be nice, because it is going to mess up your mind. It's going to mess up the way you interact with your partner. It's going to cause disharmony in your relationship. And when you get disharmony in your relationship, things cannot go right. So we must understand these things. I personally, I don't believe in control like that. I don't believe I have to call you every time and I have to get through to you. And I don't believe in those things, because I know circumstances will cause things to happen and things to go awry. I know that. And once you are understanding enough to understand that these things can happen, things can go differently, you'll live a better life. You would have less stress on yourself. Anxiety. Let's talk about anxiety. Some person's anxiety messes them up, causes problems within themselves, and anything that causes problem within you manifests itself in the relationship. Depression, that also causes individuals to be messed up within themselves, and of course the relationship will be affected by it. Medical issues such as simple thing as a stomach bug, diarrhea, anything that affects your stomach, an ulcerated stomach, is going to affect your relationship with someone else. And that's another thing. There are times while you're in a relationship that you need your quiet moment. For example, you're sick, you may have gotten food poisoning, you may have something is happening, and you need that quiet moment for yourself so that you can heal, so that you can feel better about yourself. So you do not need to speak to someone. It's like being institutionalized. You go into the hospital, check in, the doctor tell you need bed rest. Bed rest doesn't mean to say you're on your phone. So a doctor will come along, or the attendant or whoever, sir, madam, you're not supposed to be on your phone. You're supposed to be resting. And you might understand, you might say, well, I resting, but the phone is a disturbance. It will disturb you. That's why they will tell you something like that. Come off the phone, pay attention to yourself, get the rest that you need. That's why in a hospital, do you know why they feed you? They give you hospital food. A person might be in the hospital and somebody say, well, I bring food for the person. And they say, no, they cannot have it. Because the food they might be testing you for high blood pressure. So they don't want you to eat food with a lot of salt. So they will have a special dietitian who will prepare a meal. The kitchen will prepare a meal for you specifically. When that food comes to you, it is specifically for what the doctors are looking for. If you're diabetic and hypertensive, they're not going to give you anything sweet, and they're not going to give you anything that's going to raise your blood pressure. That's why hospital food don't taste good. Because they know specifically why they're feeding you that food. So some person may complain and say, look at the kind of food they're giving in the hospital, they want to kill you. They don't want to kill you, they want to make sure when they test you, they know exactly what is wrong and what's causing it. So if somebody bring a chocolate bar from out the road, that is not what you're supposed to be eating. Somebody might say, well, okay, let me carry one of those milk drinks because that's good for you. It could build you up. But that is not what you're supposed to be having in the hospital. So hospital food is bland, right? But it's not meant, you're not in a hotel where you call down your food and you expect to get something nice and tasty. You're in the hospital. So it's the very same thing, the diet that you put inside that affects your mind, body, and soul, which is, again, which are the things that you come into contact with on a daily basis, such as your cell phone. There will come a time, and persons may not believe this, there will come a time when they would have to have restrictions on cell phone because it's becoming ridiculous. Persons, for the sake of their relationship, many a relationship today are affected by their cell phone. And I'll give you one example. There are persons who horn their partner via cell phone. And you might be sleeping right next to your spouse, and he or she's on their device, talking sex talk with somebody else, and you have no idea. No idea. Because there are some persons, well, not men so much, but women, you can tell them the sexiest thing and they're responding to that. They're smiling, but inside they're smiling. So you have no idea what he or she is responding to until they get that moment when they could exhale. So, even in your home, I'm sure that there are individuals right now who are listening to this program will tell you that the cell phone is affecting their relationship. It's affecting their relationship. Because their partner, when they go to eat, they have their cell phone with them. They go in the toilet, they have their cell phone with them. They go to sleep, the cell phone is right next to them. They wake up in the morning, some people forget to pray. The first thing they do is look at their cell phone. And they're putting on no prayers on the cell phone. They immediately want to see what social media has. They immediately want to see those things. I made mention of the fact that two things that were free long ago, water and music. Water was free, now you pay for it. Music, you pay for it, now it's free. So you see how things have changed? You get it on your devices. So eventually, there'll be a time when persons are going to say, hey, we have stopped being humans and we are slaves to devices. We are slaves to our devices. And it's affecting our relationship. Look at the arguments that we have most of the time. It's because of the cell phone, your boyfriend calling you and they can't get you. Your girlfriend calling you and she can't get you. The problem is not that they can't get you, the problem is the cell phone. You have made the cell phone the focus and the most important thing between you and that person. Because you have given them the habit of whenever they call or whenever they send a text message, you respond. I don't know who passed the rule that when you get a text message, you have to respond right away. I don't know who made that rule. There are many times I read messages and don't respond until I'm ready to respond. Because I don't need to respond. I might be busy. Or I might just tell myself, I don't need to respond right away. There's no need for me to do that. I will respond on my own time. When I am able to respond mentally, physically, or whatever else. So I hope persons understand what I'm talking about, because as a sexologist, you see so many different permutations of the breakup and downfall of relationship, not only the sexual side. And I'm sure, having brought up the topic of sex, there are individuals who have their cell phone next to them when they're having sex. And you'll hear the cell phone pinging away. Some persons don't put it on silent. Some persons, as soon as they get into a different position, they pick up the cell phone. They're so used to having the cell phone, and what you need to do with the cell phone has to be there. And it's affecting the sex life. They're not attuned to whatever is happening with their partner and the emotions that they're going through. But it's what's happening to that device next to them, the sound that it's making, the light that is flashing. Are you so important that you need to be on call 24/7? And that's what people do when they are on their cell phone all the time. You are on call 24/7. Ask any doctor who is supposed to be on call. They'll tell you that they just wait for the moment that they could switch off their phone and not have it on. And they're doing something, they're prolonging life. Not saving life, but they're prolonging life. But most of them know that I don't need to be on that device. And you might tell yourself, well, I'm important because I am a doctor, so I have to have my phone on 24/7. But you yourself will know that that is what the stress that will bring to you, and how it's going to affect your mind and body and your sex life. Because the time that it's taking you to spend time with your partner, and again, spending time with your partner in a sexual way does not necessarily mean it is after 6 in the afternoon. You could be making love to your partner 2 in the afternoon, or 5 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock in the morning. So person will say, well, I wait until 8 o'clock to call him. He go answer his phone, but that person might be in an intimate situation with their spouse, with their lover. They don't want to be disturbed. No one wants to be disturbed when they're doing something like that. So do not be a slave to these things, because it does bring insecurity in a relationship. It does cause problems, strife. There are other factors, but that is one of the main things I've found. Many individuals, when they come here, couples and whatnot, when they come here, the cell phone always comes up when they come to talk to me. The length of time the person is on the cell phone, the messages that comes across to the individual of the opposite sex, how the person is responding, the smile or the lack of the smile, the way, it's very easy to tell when a man is talking to a woman on the phone. And do you know why? Does anyone here know why?
No.
Okay. Do you know why babies coo and ga and gaga and cry and whatnot? Because we are programmed to respond to that as human beings. We are programmed to respond as human beings to a child crying, to a child being nice, to a child smiling and feet and hands going up in the air. We are pre-programmed for that. The very same way all men are programmed to respond to a woman's voice differently. So for example, a woman call you on the phone, your voice change. Look at any man answer a phone and watch it. Pay attention to that. When a man answers a phone and it's another guy, he talks normal. Hey, how you going, partner? Everything cool, yeah, man. But when a woman calls, how are you going? Your voice change immediately. For any time you hear a woman's voice on the other side, you're not going to say, hey, girl, how you going? That's how you going. So there's a change in the tone because our brain is pre-programmed for that. And it's easy to prove, you know. Even if someone is calling you in a stressful situation, like from financial institution or whatever, calling you to tell you that you have a bill to pay, a woman will always call you. You never hear a guy calling you. And they know that. Get a woman to call because he's going to respond differently or she's going to respond differently to a woman. It doesn't work so much with the man calling the woman, or more so with a woman calling the man. Because immediately our brain is pre-programmed for that. That's a psychological thing. So I'm sure all the ladies out there who are listening is going to start paying attention to when their boyfriend answers the phone or their husband answers the phone. But women does already know. By the time you pick up that phone and answer, they know there's a woman calling. That's why they stick around and say, who is that? Who is that on the phone? Who are you talking to? Yeah, it sounds like you're talking to your mother, you know. And when they meet the mother, Auntie, you was calling John?
When?
Thursday, 2 o'clock, you call him? So you see how easy you could get in trouble? Serious trouble. So Angel, what do you have for us today, girl?
I have 14 questions. And the first one is, what do you think is standing in your way of being as good as you want to be as a sexologist?
Standing in my way? The authorities. I have a lot of challenges with customs all the time, and they are the ones who stand in your way. And that's not a joke, it's a fact.
Okay.
Customs are the biggest hindrance to being a sexologist and being able to take care of people and their needs, because they don't understand and they like to apply their interpretation of laws. And although they lose cases in court and whatnot, they're just a pain in the ass. I mean, this is not going to help me to say that, because they're going to be worse off than what they're already doing what they have to do. So that's why I have no respect for custom officers. And one of the things I'm going to say, and I'm going to say very openly because I could say it, the most corrupt people in this country is custom officers. Because I've known of many occasions, going back from way back when, 30 years back, that a bribe will get you going. So I could tell you the corruption that goes. People say it's the police, I'll tell you no. Customs, immigration, these people with licensed officers, they're the most corrupt people that I've heard. And I'm saying it openly. And I challenge them because I know it for a fact. I've seen it happen many times. I know of people who go and pay bribes and they will tell you, boy, all you have to do is grease the pocket, things will happen, If you're not willing to do it, not willing to do it. So in Trinidad, more and more the civil servants in Trinidad who have authority are corrupt. They're very, very corrupt. And like I say, I will get in trouble for saying it, but I say it. And I say it openly because I've been saying it for years. The most corrupt individuals in this country are these people. Because they always they're getting a salary,
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I can't understand. You choose a job to get a salary. You choose a job because you supposedly like it. But once you get that uniform, you think that you're God. But what people fail to realize is that one day you go back to being nothing. I have known of police officers who have reached certain rank in the police service. And when they are that rank, they're whining on everybody. And the day they resign or retire, they're treated like dog by the same police officer. I know a police officer who reached a certain rank, and when he went to the police station in the district, the officers there run him like a dog. Run him out of the police station like a dog. So you see, there's something called karma. And when you do these things to people, it's going to come back to haunt you. In this life, you don't have to die and go to hell. It happens here. I have seen persons, and I always make mention of her, who were corrupt beyond imagination and were treated like dog afterwards when they lose their position in society. And one day you have that uniform, and again, you have respect for the uniform and whatnot. But if the person wearing the uniform is a corrupt individual, how could you have respect for the uniform? How could you have respect for the position of the individual? Because one day that person is no longer going to wear that uniform and comes back down as an ordinary civilian in society. And the very same things that they were hurting people with, they are the one who has to pay the price of it. And it's easy to see, look at the salary of these individuals and see if they can afford the things that they have. And then you know how corrupt they are. I know of officers, and again, in the first three that I call, their salary does not allow them to have the vehicle that they have. And they have one. They have a vehicle to go to work with, and they have one to gallivant all about the place with. Look at the house that they build and ask yourself the question, can they afford that house if they have their salary, if they could take out a loan and a mortgage for that? And some of them will tell you they own their house outright. How is that possible? Look at the shoes that they wear, the watch that they wear. People don't know. If you're observant, you'll see these things. The gold chain around their neck, the bling that they go out with. Now at the job, you wouldn't see it. And you wouldn't see them in the vehicle that they have to outside of the uniform. And that's how you know of the corruption. And corruption is what is destroying this country. So that, to answer your question, I hope it answered.
Yes, it did. The second question is, a person wants to know why her sexual appetite is bigger than her partner's. She wants to know if it's because he's not as interested in her as she is in him.
No. No. Your sexual appetite is dependent on your age, your health, and your gender. So if your sexual appetite as a female is bigger than your partner as a male, he might be 65 years of age and you're 39. What do you expect? You choose to marry him.
True.
It has nothing to do whether he's turned on by you or not. He might be incapable of doing something with you. But a lot of times, people feel that if your partner is not interested in you sexually, is because they're horning you. But, excuse me, that's not necessarily the case. So, your sexual appetite has to do with your age, and also your history sexually.
Okay.
If you are, and let's use a simple thing. You know there are many young females out there who have a very healthy sexual appetite to the point that they will call them nymphomania, meaning they need sex all the time. That has nothing to do with race. That has nothing to do with environment or anything. That has to do with the individual. They like sex. Right? And there are guys out there, same way, they like a lot of sex. They're capable of having a lot of sex. And they may, as they get older, that appetite that they have for sex increases. So that's why I was telling you, when I was telling you about relationship. If you have a very healthy sexual appetite now, when you get married, you'll curb it a while because you're married and everything new about the marriage and you're all lovey-dovey and whatnot. But you think that sexual appetite that you had going to die? You're getting older and it's going to increase. So whatever you were doing sexually prior to getting married, it's going to come back a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years down the line. It's going to come back.
That question was from you.
It was just a question.
Yeah, there's no the personal ones.
Yeah.
That one wasn't personal. She just changed her voice when she asked it.
The smile just get wider and thing.
What do you find is underserved in sex therapy nowadays?
What I find is understood.
Underserved.
Well, it depends on who is receiving the sex therapy. most of the times persons want the therapy, but they don't want you to continue it to the end. Some persons, they don't realize what sex therapy entails, and some sex therapists really don't explain to you what you're going to go through. But I think one of the reasons for my success as a sex therapist is explaining to the individuals the steps that will be taken and what needs to be done and all those things. And if you're underserved, it's because there's another underlying factor that you didn't take into consideration. So if a person is not open about what they're actually experiencing and what's happening to them, you would not be able to give it 100% because you don't have all the information. I'm not saying that you have to give all the information right away, but as you go along in your therapy, you should be opening up yourself to tell the person more and more about what is happening with you, what was the past and what you're experiencing now, so he or she will be able to help you for the future. And sex therapy is not for the therapist's sexual gratification.
Okay. What is the biggest problem or issue you've seen that couples have?
Incompatibility, whether it be age incompatibility, race incompatibility, religion incompatibility, understanding. There's a lot of incompatibility with people. They're just not compatible. They're two different wavelength for whatever reason. And I'll give you one reason that people could start thinking about. If you are married to a person who has a first degree and you have not finished high school, you'll have a difficulty communicating. So if that person goes on to have an undergraduate degree and goes on to have a master's, and you still remain without your subjects in high school, you're not going to be compatible. That person will want to have a conversation with somebody who has a master's or MBA or somebody like that. Because there are things that the person will be telling you that you will not understand.
So basically somebody on their level.
In their
Intellectual level. So that is one thing. Let's look at religion. Most persons, based on their religion, especially the Abrahamic religion, likes to be dominant over any other thing. My religion is more important and better than yours. That's always the case. Since time immemorial, that's why they always want to convert you. And that I'm stating a fact. Who vex. Everyone who belongs to Abrahamic religion wants to convert you. Join my religion is the best. So, if a person belongs to the only other non-Abrahamic religion we have in Trinidad, which is Hinduism, you feel you're more important than them, you feel you're superior to them. And that's a fact. My religion better than yours. Look at how much people follow in my religion. Look at how much people follow in your religion.
I understand.
Right? So, incompatibility with religion, incompatibility with their sexual self. The question that you asked, I think number 2 question when you asked about a woman's sexual appetite as opposed to a man's sexual appetite. So you have incompatibility with sex. You have incompatibility with your job. If the woman making more money than the man does feel inadequate. He feels inadequate. That's why in the past, a lot of men never used to allow their wives to work. I am the breadwinner. You're not supposed to be doing that. I have to bring the bacon home. So think about all the incompatibilities you can have out there. The only time you get over that is when you have an understanding partner that understand all these things and know how to adjust their lives to temper themselves and speak to you at a level that they know you'll understand, interact with you if it's on a religious thing to say, well, okay, you practice your religion, I practice mine, and no big deal. Only then you get some sort of compatibility happening. And that takes an effort on both parties. Okay, I'll use religion again. Although people don't like to talk about religion, but you asked the question about that. This is significant to understand. I have seen a lot of relationships blossom with two different Abrahamic and non-Abrahamic relationships. Because the non-Abrahamic person will tell the person, you continue with whatever you're doing. When the children born, they'll have a choice. I love you. I may not take part in whatever you're doing, or I may take part in whatever you're doing, and vice versa. And you'll see harmony. And eventually, you'll find one who says that I will not take part, starts to take part, because they realize that, hey, love should conquer everything. I was listening to a professor, I'm using the word professor, an expert in a certain musical instrument. And he was saying that when he was born, and they take him home, in his religion, the father will recite something from his holy book to the child. But when the mother brought the child, the father was reciting musical notes to the child. And then the father said, I am a devotee of a non-Abrahamic God, because that goddess is the goddess of music. And now the guy is an expert in that musical instrument. So you wonder what happened, what transpired there. But at least the husband, the father, understood that although I belong to an Abrahamic religion, there is something else out there that I could embrace based on my profession. And I'm not going to be closed-minded. A lot of the problems we have in society is because we're closed-minded. We're not open to things. And that's where the problem comes in. If we are more open to things with our partner, okay, it's like falling in love with someone who's of a different race than you. Race and culture also play a part. If you fall in love with somebody who's from, let's say, Indonesia, you don't know any Indonesian culture, you don't know Indonesian food, but you fall in love with the person. You're madly in love with the person, so you decide you're going to get married to this person. And everything happens in Trinidad, and then he says, okay, let's go back to my home. Let's go back to my country. You're in for a culture shock. Because no matter what he tells you, when you get to Indonesia, it's going to be something that is totally different from what you grew up from or grew up in. You're not going to get doubles on the side of the road. Right? So that's the culture shock that you're going to get. But is that going to break up your relationship? Are you open-minded enough to say, hey, as my husband, Indonesia, let me get to learn the Indonesian culture and the people and get to love the place as much as I love him. Doesn't mean to say you love your country less, or your race less, or your religion less. So that's where the compromise comes in.
The next question is, my partner and I don't seem to make love like we used to since he lost his job. What can we do to restore our intimacy?
Well, that's a number one thing that happens to most men. When you lose your job, you're emasculated. You're no longer a man. Think about it. I just said that in answering your question there. When a man, whatever position he may have, he may be a laborer on the side of the road, he may be a laborer in a estate, he might be a supervisor, he might be a machinist in a factory, he may be a banker, somebody in the financial, but when you lost your job, you lose your job. When the prime minister is no longer the prime minister, he or she has lost their job. You think they don't go into a state of depression?
Yes, they do.
Everyone goes into a state of depression when they lose their job. When a minister loses his or her job, they lose their job. I don't care what they say. No minister, ask any minister to resign their position, they'll tell you no. They could do the worst crime or the worst of what. They're waiting to be fired. They're not going to leave that position. Same thing when you're working. And if you know what that job is bringing for you and the position that it gives you and the authority that it gives you, would you like to lose that? So if you lose that, you have lost part of yourself. So that brings about a depression within you. And anything that depresses your mind, you can't get erection or you can't be aroused.
True.
You're under stress. So keep your job.
Okay, so this question. If men if okay. If men G-spot is in their rectum, right? Why do majority of men not like to be touched there or anywhere near there?
Society.
Yeah.
No, it's a man think that if you touch him on his ass and he feels good, it makes him gay. So it's dotishness. That's what it is. Pure and simple. God put your G-spot inside your ass. That's where it is. Your anus. Right? But persons, they are afraid of liking it. They are afraid of liking it because if I get to like that, what does that make me? They start questioning their gender. They start questioning their sexuality. They start questioning themselves. And they stop thinking that I am human and I have erogenous zones all over my body and I'm supposed to enjoy everything. That's why ignorance and dotishness, to put it bluntly. And it have men who is listening right now and say, not me. Nobody is going to touch my ass. Well, that's your loss.
Well, in many relationships, majority of the time, the girlfriend or the wife do that to their husband.
You might get in front of you, not on the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do what to the husband?
Like smack their society as.
What do you mean? Smack the ass?
Yeah.
No, smacking the ass is not that doesn't entail what you talk about. A G-spot, smacking the G-spot, smacking the buttocks have nothing to do with the G-spot.
Okay.
To do with the G-spot has to do with touching of the anus, the entrance of the anus and inside. Smacking of the ass has nothing to do with that.
Okay. What do you think people must know or need to know about sexual health in general?
Know thyself, know who you are, know what you're capable of, and know the changes that are going to take place in your life as you age. Know your status when it comes to STD, STIs, and know what is going to endanger you. Right? So, having sex with someone who you suspect may have STD or STI and being unprotected, obviously you're going to put yourself in danger. So know yourself and know what you are capable of and know what you would do and would not do.
Okay. What should a woman do if her partner can't make her orgasm?
Well, a man don't make a woman orgasm, you know.
She wants to know which specific areas makes a woman orgasm for each
A
person.
man don't make a woman orgasm. We are not God. A man assists a woman in having an orgasm. So if she cannot have an orgasm, there's nothing he can do to make her have an orgasm. If she's having orgasm, otherwise she has to direct him what he needs to do to have an orgasm. And this is where the problem comes in. If you lie down there and say, hey, the man go make me have an orgasm, and you're incapable of having an orgasm, you're not going to have an orgasm.
Okay.
So orgasm comes from the individual. Orgasm comes from stimulation, the right stimulation, in the right spot. So he might be the best pussy eater in the world, right? And she's not going to have an orgasm from eating pussy, getting a pussy eaten. And it only comes about from fingering. And she don't tell him to stick her finger in. You feel she's going to have an orgasm? So how is he going to make her have an orgasm?
He wouldn't.
Well, right. And that's where the problem comes in. Some women just lie there and expect the man to do everything without guiding him. It's like after you have sex, the woman say, I want you to eat my pussy. And the guy say, no, we finished. He's doing himself a disservice because the woman know what she wants. But he already, let's say he comes. He He will not be able to get an erection. But you're talking about pussy eating now. Cunnilingus. That is what she wants. So make sure you do it, and make sure you do it damn good. Listen to the moans and listen to the groan and listen to how she's directing her vagina over your mouth. Listen to those things. And listening doesn't mean to say listening with your ear, you know. You're listening with the body movement. You're listening to the moans and the groans and the movement and the stimulation and all those things from the woman. So when you are done, does not mean to say your partner is done. And we're dealing with a woman and her orgasm, because you use the word orgasm. Men can have orgasm also if they allow a woman to stimulate the G-spot. But again, it comes back to how many men would allow a woman to stimulate the G-spot. So you see, I like your questions, you know. One ties in with the other. I like your questions today. I don't know if you did research to do these things, but I love your questions. No, they're fantastic. They're really good questions. And it answers a lot for people out there. So kudos on that.
Thank you. How do you discuss issues in a relationship with a partner that continuously dismisses your feelings? How do you make him or her listen to what you have to say?
How is the person going to listen to you if they're dismissive of you?
What can you do?
Well, right. And this is where compatibility comes in. Incompatibility. So you have to swallow your pride. Find a moment when you can talk to the person, apologize sometimes for being you, but get that conversation going as to what he or she or you or him can do to make things better, and implement it and try to stick to it. Because it's easy to go back to your bad habits and your old habits. It's easy to want to have sex on the bed at 8 o'clock in the night than to have sex 5 o'clock in the evening when rain falling and the woman hot, the man is hot, and he's starting to watch cricket on the TV. So once you have that conversation, you'll be able to change things, or to put things in motion for change. Putting things in motion for change is that first step. But you have to swallow your pride. Swallowing your pride means that you don't make it about you. You try to find common ground. You try to find common ground. If you make these things about you, you're going to end up in an argument. You're going to end up seemingly selfish. And the person may be more turned off by you than turned on.
Okay. How do you communicate with someone that you love them for the very first time when neither parties have said it in the relationship?
Wait, repeat that?
How do you communicate with someone that you love them for the first time? Like you're telling them, I love you for the very first time.
That does come naturally. That does come with the moment.
Okay.
If you're looking for a moment to say I love you, you don't love that person.
But if the person just nervous, or they don't know if the other person feel the same
You will
way?
blurt it out. When you're in love with somebody, you will blurt it out at the right time when you feel the emotion. The person may not have the same feeling for you, and don't think that because you love someone, they'll love you, you know. Don't ever think that, you know. And don't think that the person will love you with the same intensity having said it. That is not necessarily so. But the fact of the matter is that if you have genuine feelings for the person and the person have feelings for you, and you are in a relationship, there will come a moment unexpectedly when you say, I love you. Or you know I love you. And that is when the I love you has more meaning than you practicing to say, I will tell him I love him. That is not true love. Wait for the moment when you feel that it is the right time for me to say this. Not because the person says I love you, but you must say I love you back.
I think it's fear of being let down. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you're in a relationship. So what are you in a relationship for? The relation, if you are given the opportunity to be in the relationship, you're going out, you're spending time together, you're kissing, you're having sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious that you are going to tell the person how you feel about them. So if the person say I love you, the person should of course is waiting for a response, and the response may be from you, that you don't want to say, well, I love you, but say thank you, I care deeply for you, I love having you as my friend, or I love having you around, and I like how things are going. So the person know that, hey, I'm not saying I love you in response to you saying I love you, but you're making the person feel good without committing yourself.
You see, a lot of people, you see, you now say those exact words, right? Especially like with, if a man hearing that from a woman, and he heard he done again, guys, I know, you tell him I know. Right? 'Cause
No.
it's the ego thing.
Yes, well, okay,
That's
I
pretty-
understand that. Okay, I understand that, but not because I say I love you at that moment mean you will respond the very same way, because you might be in shock, or you might be like, how do I respond to this?
Some people might feel obligated to say it back,
Correct.
you know.
Is that-
But
I-
you shouldn't say based on obligation.
And that's where you come back. You as the individual who said it, I love you, have to understand that. You
Well,
don't
right.
need the
So that is
response.
why when you say it, you hug the person, say, darling, you know I love you, and you leave it like that.
And yeah, just give it. Don't let them
You leave it
process.
like that.
You give the information, let them
Yeah,
process.
darling, I
let
love
them-
you, and you leave it like that.
uh,
So when that person is ready, and after that person has told you that they love you, then you can say, you love me? Tell me how much you love me. Right? Because then it becomes a game, it becomes something nice. But if at the moment that you tell the person I love you and you're expecting the same response, no, you're not going to get the same response 90% of the time.
And then what that leads to, if you don't get the response one time, it looks at a breakdown of the relationship. Everything you used to be doing, you're gonna stop doing it because you ain't get back the I love you again.
No, well, if you then you truly love the person.
So,
No, then you don't truly love the person. Because if I tell her I love you, right? And she does not tell me I love you, and I decide to treat she badly, I never love her. That was just something superficial. I will continue showing her that until she starts showing me either she loves me or she hates me.
start to reciprocate.
Yes. And if after you tell a woman I love you and she doesn't soften up a bit towards you, well then high up and run away, jump on your horse and ride.
Yeah, a nice run.
Yeah. It wasn't meant to be.
My next question is, my partner used to treat me like a queen during our relationship and engagement, but after marriage he became distasteful, cold, and belittling. What can I do in this situation?
Is this his true personality? And if it is, then you should realize that during the courtship and the engagement, he was fooling you.
So,
And what you do is you find out from others. Anytime you want to find out how a guy is, look at the way he treats his mother, his sisters, and the females around him. Look at how he treats the waitress when she comes to serve you food. If he talks down to her, he don't respect women. Right? If he's trying to be bossy towards her, come on, those are flags. Those are flags. If when you go home, he stoops in at his mother, and if his sister tells him something, then those are red flags. If his sister's birthday is coming up and he say, did you buy me? She goes, I again. That he going to treat you the same way. Because he is accustomed to doing that. So he might be all lovey-dovey and nice to you now when your birthday come around, you do roses and whatnot. When you married him, you feel you getting that. Same way you say, he become complacent.
Might, she did, she right there, right through, we living together.
but why pretend? Why?
Because we pretend to fool a person to get what we want.
Yeah, I don't want another man with you.
person pretend to be okay. Why do people catfish? Why? Why do people con others by saying by coming to pick you up with a nice car, but they don't own the car, they borrow the car from their partner, or the shoes that they have on is not theirs?
To fool people.
To fool you. And women are easily fooled because they look at the superficial thing and they don't pay attention to the little things. For example, if your boyfriend come and pick you up with a car, let's say a car that is expensive, 200,000, 300,000, and he have no job, isn't that a red flag?
How you get all that money?
Not how you get out of how the hell you can afford this vehicle. Oh, whose vehicle is this? And you ask him, say, John, you're not working, but how come you come and pick me up with this vehicle? Well, I Ralph phone and ask him to borrow it because I want to impress you. He's being honest. But if you say, hey babe, this is my car, what do you mean? This is my car. What do you think? I can't afford this? But John, you're working for the last 5 years, and they tell me you're working for the last 5 years since we for COVID. The bank has seized the car yet? You abandoned it or? I can't understand how parents they say they don't. Your child is working but bringing money home. I remember, and I always remember this, I was in standard 4. A girl who I used to sit with in class, sit in the same desk with her, went away and she came back and gave me a pencil. Because it's one of those pencils, when you finish here, you take it out and put it to the top and push down the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And I went home with that pencil and I was doing homework and my mother saw it. Where did you get that? Susan gave it to me. Susan who? Susan who I sit with next to Susan, and take it back tomorrow and give it back to Susan. I felt heartbroken because I really like Susan. Right? I thought it was unfair because Susan gave me a gift. Right? I had to take it back for the girl. Because I couldn't carry back that a second day. No. So I can't understand how parents they say your child unemployed but coming home with money. What the money just grow on tree or?
Yeah,
And then when something happened, I know the boy was a good boy. He never do anybody anything. These set of idiots that have out there.
No, there was a situation a couple years ago where I had a friend and she carried her little brother to a birthday party. And what she did was they didn't get any gifts, so they just gave the child, a $50 to just spend on themselves. And the little child went back in her little brother's wallet and took out $300 and gave it to his mother and said that she asked him where he get that. That's my birthday gift. And the mother was like, okay. And she just left it as that. And then when the point come when he realized the money gone and he went and asked back for it, his mother was like, nobody would go in your wallet and take out your money. Everybody here is family.
But she knows she collected 300, right?
Yeah, so...
Well, the mother is dishonest.
So when the mother, she was like, you know what, he really get 300 if that's the amount. He said, no, I gave him $50 because the little brother is a 10-year-old boy, obviously.
You're not going to give him $300.
Yeah, so... And the mother did nothing about it. She didn't
Yeah,
even
because
hit
she's
him
dishonest.
or nothing.
The point is that she's dishonest if she's telling you that no.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately, okay, it's like this. If I buy something from someone and I'm supposed to get $7 in change and they give me $8, I give him back the person $8.
Well,
If I'm supposed to get $20 change and they give me $40 by mistake, I giving you back your $20.
Well, the mother was ashamed to bring back the money, so the father had to bring him back. So...
Well, obviously somebody had a talk with her.
Yeah, I thinking like, why feel ashamed for the child doing it? Should have made the child bring back the money, that the child feel ashamed because it's the child doing.
Well, right, the child has to be corrected.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where the problem comes in our society. we do not correct our children properly. And when I say we, the children who turn out to be criminal minded, who turn out to do things that they're not supposed to be doing in society, are not disciplined. And I'm not talking about cutting their ass, discipline in the form of, hey, Kevin, why you come home with that bracelet? Who gave you that bracelet? Well, it's not merely mine, I borrowed it from my friend Harry. And he told me I could wear it today. Do not borrow anybody's thing to wear because it is not yours, Kevin. Give it back to Harry, please. And I don't want to see you with anybody's thing wearing. I will buy you a bracelet when I could afford it. Full stop. But don't come flamsing with somebody's thing because what will inculcate in your mind is that I could take somebody else's thing to flam. That's the same thing Kevin now. If Kevin gets away with that, he going to borrow a partner can pull up by you, and this is my car. It's not yours. You see, there's a psychological effect to everything that you do in life. Everything that you do in life. How your parents treat you, how they treat one another. And that's why I tell people, I don't need a manual for marriage. My parents are married 63 years. That's my manual. My grandparents were married for 75 years. That's my manual. I look at how they treated each other. And fortunately for me, for 35 years of my life, I was fortunate to watch my grandparents interact with one another through thick and thin, hell and high water, poverty to being comfortable. I saw it all. But I knew they were always happy. And you saw the happiness. And the children were always happy. And the grandchildren was always happy. So I remember going to my grandfather, my nana, and we used to go and visit. And every time we're leaving, he will give us each child, grandchild, something financially, a little thing. So I remember when I opened my first business, I started to buy groceries for my grandfather and grandmother because I knew what they used to do for us as children. So that's my sewa. I decided to do that. So their groceries on a Saturday, I will pay for it. It's the same thing. That was his investment in me. I don't know if my other siblings and whatnot do the same. I'm sure they did something, but I never asked. And I don't want to know. I know what I did because that was inculcated in me. So once you have a model to and again, I listen to people in all kind of situations talking about these things, but they don't use good examples. I use examples that are practical to me. I'll use those examples. I've seen my mother and father. I am 60 years of age. So let's say I can remember from age 2 to now. Age 2 to now. So I know everything that they went through from age 2 to now. I can remember everything. Not everything, but everything. The majority of the major things in their lives. Unfortunately, my grandfather on my father's side, his wife died. And that's another thing. His wife died in 1945, the end of World War II. Victory Day she died. He died 1976. You feel he had any woman between 45 to 76? You feel he bring any woman in the house? No. No. It wasn't his culture. He did not do that. So when I think back, I born 63. So I know my grandfather and spent time with him, Aja and all these things. And I always listen to the stories and I always listen to people talk about him and how highly regarded he was. But one of the things that struck me is that Aja do have a wife. And he was a businessman. So he could have picked up any woman. He could have bring any woman home. But he didn't. So that's an example. So some people might look at us, he foolish, he could have get a woman, he could have be happy, but maybe a woman would make him happy. Maybe he saw it differently. I never got to the age where I could have asked him, Aja, well, because he died when I was 14 years of age. Why didn't you do this? And why, I didn't get to that age where we could have that conversation. But in my own analysis of him, and knowing the person was religiously and otherwise, I understood why he didn't do something like that. So it strengthened me as an individual. It made me into who I am today. That I could say with pride that Buchun Anganu Singh, my grandfather, I understand why he dropped the Singh from his name too, because I want he pounded into our heads that when he left his father home, he was too poor to carry that high name of Singh. Because Singh is a Kshatriya name. He left it with his father. He left that name with his father. So that told me something of the type of individual he was also. He didn't leave home and say, well, I'm a singer and I'm going to make it out there. He dropped this Singh because he said, you cannot go and live in poverty and carry the name Singh. Culturally, that is wrong. Religiously, it's wrong. So he dropped that. In his eyes, then, it's wrong. So I understand that. So when my family who dies, recently one of my grandfather brother died, and he's a Singh. So people sometimes they ask us, how come all you don't carry Singh? Well, grandfather, we take the grandfather first name. But again, he didn't steal a name, because he thought if he left with that last name, he was taking it from his father, and he wanted no part of that. At 14 years of age, he left his father's home. So, when you have these persons in your life as examples, and you understand tradition and again culture, you may encounter someone who's not of your culture, and when you're talking with that, and you're talking about it passionately, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Last name is a last name. Because in some culture, people don't even know their last name. They don't know their lineage. And that's what I was talking about, culture shock. You go into a society where your name has a meaning. It has a meaning. Or it doesn't have a meaning. Next question.
What does your name mean?
Giriraj, King of the Mountain.
Okay. Do you know the meaning of your name?
No.
Giri is a Parvat. Giri Parvat is a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mountain that Lord Krishna, if you watch it, there's a picture of Lord Krishna holding up a mountain with his little finger. If you ever look at a picture of Lord Krishna, he's holding up a mountain with his little finger. That's Giriraj Parvat.
Okay.
And Raj is king. But it's also a symbol of Lord Shiva. It's also a name of Lord Shiva. I know these things, because I am interested in knowing who I am.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, a 20-year-old woman says that she's happy with just touching and kissing, but when it comes to penetrating, she panics and feels under pressure. She has no sexual trauma. How can she fix this?
How could you say she has no sexual trauma when she don't want to be penetrated? That is a trauma.
That is a trauma?
Of course.
Okay. I mean, like in the sense of...
If you're panicking from the touch of, for the act of initial penetration, that's a trauma.
So then should it be...
Something is preventing that. It may be something that someone told her. That sex is going to be painful. The first time you have sex, you're going to bleed, and you might dead from bleeding. All kind of things people are telling you, to frighten you from having sex.
I thought when she said no sexual trauma, meaning that she wasn't essayed or,
No, well, we're not talking about that, but it could be, you see,
something mental.
if you tell somebody something negative enough, that creates trauma within the individual. They may not see it as trauma because nobody has fingered them, nobody has interfered with them. But you have damaged the mind of the individual. So why is she panicking when that penis gets near the vagina? There must be something that is causing that. I've had patients, same-sex therapy that you asked about at the beginning,
mm-hmm.
that got married and couldn't have sex. So they had to go through the sex therapy in order to have sex for the first time to consummate their marriage. Not one, not two, about 12 persons have encountered that in my years of doing this. All sorts of couples from all backgrounds for different reasons. the background that they came from, each one of them had a trauma instilled in them from a young age based on race, religion, culture, belief. So they thought sex would be something, I remember one person distinctly. I think she was recent. That when the penis touched the vagina, she used to bawl out in pain. For time the guy penis touched her vagina, she used to bawl out in pain. And I said, Miss Lady, what pain are you getting? And I proved to her that she was not getting any pain.
That's all in my head.
Of course. So that's a trauma. I remember we were going through the therapy and I told the guy what to do. And I engaged in a conversation. And suddenly do you realize your husband penis is playing with your vagina? And she froze up. But for about 3 or 4 minutes, his penis was going up and down on her vagina. And I told her, I said, I just proved to you that you don't get pain from touching up the vagina with your penis. It's now that I brought it to your attention, look at the pain. Look at you're frozen up, but you're not feeling pain. So it means this is something her grandmother, Tanti Nenen, whoever, mother, sister, Tanti Nenen, whatever, tell her when she was a little child, that caused her to think that anytime a penis touches the vagina, she is going to be in pain. Sometimes you find out what is the trauma and how it was done, what was said to the person, sometimes you don't.
Okay. That sounds a bit scary.
It is scary, that's why you have to be careful. This stupidness of telling children that the stock bring you and the plain BB bring you and all that kind of dotishness. And all of a sudden the children find out about sex and say, okay, a plane bring you, let me bull down the place, I won't get pregnant. A plane have to bring the child. That is reality because children are stupid, Don't feel that, okay, we talk about, you're talking about somebody sexually interfering with the person.
Mm-hmm.
You think children engaging in sex is something new?
No.
You think elderly person being with a younger person is something new?
No.
There's nothing new in sex. There's nothing new in sex. Since the dawn of time immemorial, some people might say it's Adam and Eve, other non-Abrahamic religion will tell you time immemorial. From the beginning of dawn, when there were two sexes, male and female, people have been bullying or having sex, one way or the other. It has happened in many different, any permutation you think about, whether it be two men together, two women together, a man and a woman, a boy and a girl, a man and a girl, a woman and a boy, it has happened. There's nothing new.
The next question is, I'm a 25-year-old woman and I watch porn sometimes. However, my husband gets upset when I do, but won't say why. From a male point of view, why is this?
You need to repeat that.
I'm a 25-year-old woman and I watch porn sometimes. However, my husband gets upset when I do, but won't say why. From a male point of view, what do you think is the reason why?
Well, actually, if you want to watch porn, But if you depend on porn to become aroused, that is a problem. If you depend on porn to enjoy sex, that is a problem. If you're addicted to porn, that is a problem. So maybe the husband knows something that we don't know. Maybe she's addicted to porn. Or maybe the type of porn she's looking at, he doesn't approve. Or maybe he just doesn't approve of her looking at porn. There are some men who it's like, you say you have a vibrator.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell your significant other that you use a vibrator on yourself?
Yeah.
Well, right. You're one of the few. But there are some women who can't do that. They cannot do that because the minute they do that, the man feel intimidated by the vibrator.
Like he's not doing his job.
Correct.
Okay. And I already know the answer to this question, but
You know the answer, but nobody asking you.
I know. What can you do about dryness after menopause?
Lubrication.
And
Lubrication makes sure no matter how much water you drink, it's going to be dry.
Okay, I was not going to say that.
No. Water is not the solution for dryness of the vagina that comes about for postmenopausal women.
Okay. So does that clear up after a while? Or
Nope.
So they have to keep on using it?
The vagina becomes dry and brittle. The vaginal passage, not the vagina. I correct myself because I want no one to feel that the outside of the vagina is going to be hard and dry. That's not going to get that way. The passageway. So you need to use some sort of lubrication. Fortunately for some women, they don't need the lubrication because they still have that subtlety and they still have that bit of lubrication. But that is why man has pre-cum. So it lubricates while it's going in. There's a reason for pre-cum.
And that's all the questions I have for today.
But you can say this is the last question.
Oh my God.
Here I am sharpening my teeth for the next question. That
No, that was
something
the
that
last
might be on a personal level, and you never know with her.
Yeah,
I had no personal questions this time.
Oh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, getting back to what we started off with, relationship. All those things are pertinent to a relationship. Whether you're married, unmarried, first time in a relationship, the question of I love you. That is important in a relationship. When do you say it? How do you say it? How impactful you want it to be.
I
Right?
have some people that say I love you like nothing.
Well, that is only young generation. Only they say that. Only they tell everybody you love. Hey, love, how you going? I love you. Yeah, love. You're wasting the word love. Because there's no meaning to love when you tell somebody who understands the meaning of love, I love you. Because everybody love everybody. I tell you, love they share that like water, like gobar. Love all over the place. Love has no meaning anymore. I listen to young people speak and it's like you're calling your partner your dog. What is that about?
Dog, horse.
Right? But I know the impact of saying those 3 words the very first time to the person who loves you, who in love with you. Now you could love somebody and not be in love with them, and that's another thing. You love the way they treat you, but you're not in love with them. You're not willing to give up your heart and your soul for that person. You're not in love with the person. And you could fall out of love, being in love with someone, and just continue to love the person, but not be in love with the person. So when all these younger folks using the word I love you, blasé, throwing it out as though it's confetti, that's what it becomes. Confetti is not, when you throw up confetti, what it is? Become garbage. All the pretty confetti is pretty. When you throw up confetti in the air or shoot it out from one of those blasters, as soon as it hits the air, what it becomes? Not rubbish?
Yes.
Well, right. That's what love becomes when you're throwing out love all the time. It becomes garbage. Have some value to the things that you're saying, so that when you say it, it has meaning. When you say to that individual that you have true feelings for, there's no question as to whether you love me or not. Because if I hear you using the word love loosely, and we are in a relationship, and you tell me I love you, you think I'm going to value that love?
No.
As much as if I've never heard you say it before, and suddenly I'm hearing it from you? Think about it. Because now it's impactful. Wow, I never heard she use that word before. She tell me she love no. What? You can't sleep. You can't sleep? How are you going to sleep? You hugging up that pillow as though it's you? You understand? Because that's what the word does to the individual. That's what happens when you use an impactful, forceful word like that. But if you use the word loosely all the time, it does not have that impact. Even to you saying it. Even to you saying it.
You already know you don't mean it.
You use the word loosely. It's like your favorite meal and you decide to eat it every day. After a while, you become fed up of it. So, Master Control, you there?
Yes, I'm here, Dr.
Right. How you like the program today?
Fantastic.
Good.
A lot of people will be confused.
Yeah, they will be confused because, again, when you tell people the right things, it makes them think. It creates an impact on their mind and it gives them the opportunity to think about themselves and what I need to do to improve myself or to make things different. Now, 90% of the person listening will go back to how they were an hour before the program started. And that's all well and good. But after that 10%, it's going to create some sort of change in individual. Well, I have to thank you for having us on power102fm.com. And we're signing off now until next week. Hoping you have a wonderful weekend and everything goes well for you and the family.
You too, Dr. Raj, and the lovely.
All the best, my friend.